Let's see here. LSU Odyssey live, everybody. Let's get this camera looking better than that. This camera, we had some cool stuff set up for you to look at and got it all screwed up there. Everybody, this is a very important show that we're excited for. Piper Hutchinson from Tigerrag Media, the Revel, does a lot of different. She's written for a lot of different places, but mostly for Tigerrag in this last little bit that I've known, and just usually kills it with these reports. Usually a lot of stuff that is kind of above my pay grade, stuff that I'm not an expert at, stuff that's maybe more legal, more financial, and maybe more about institutional structure, that type of stuff that plays such a big deal, a big role in everything that LSU does, right? And going through her article that she just put out on Tigerrag, which is an incredible read. Everyone must check that out. We've got the link in the description. We'll put the link in the comments right now. An incredible article. And what it really exposes is that as much as we see the $40 million, roster, or sorry, not $40 million roster, $40 million transfer portal haul, we're talking a far more expensive roster than $40 million. And then the whole project with LSU football, according to my sources, around $250 million as far as flipping the staff, as far as everything that LSU has done, payouts, all that stuff. Kelly, we're paying him how much just for leaving? Like $54 million. So Piper is really incredible, and I want to get her on here for that reason, because I'm not an expert at some of this stuff, and I've got to get her telling the fans really the lowdown on this. So Piper, come on here. Piper, welcome. Can you hear me perfectly? Can I hear you?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Perfect. Piper, you're an award-winning journalist, a Market Prize for your incredible coverage of the Title IX investigation, which I read some of your old articles just this last little bit to get kind of a background on what you've done. Just really on the money. You really knew what was going down there, had a good pulse on that situation. And so you're an LSU alum. I want everyone to know that. She is an LSU alum, from the manship, or should we call it the womanship? I think it's more appropriate to call it the womanship right now. And Piper, I just want to get the lowdown on how are you doing right now?
Well, it's a very busy time of year for me. I mean, my primary gig is as a State House reporter. We're about to go into the legislative session starting tomorrow. And with everything going on at LSU and athletics and at the Capitol, I'm a busy woman.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen your stuff all the time throughout the last few years. I think it's been like the last maybe 4 years. Maybe since like 2021, 2022 is when I remember first seeing your articles. And it was always stuff that was maybe a little bit above my pay grade as I view it. Whereas it's like stuff that is about the university and the finances of the university, and stuff that affects, maybe it doesn't always affect football, since they're the one that the golden goose, but this stuff affects so much of what goes on at LSU. But I'm so happy to have you on. Although this headline is scaring some Tiger fans out there. I've gotten a lot of messages saying, what is this? What is going on here? And you're an expert in this. I'm not. That is why we got you on. I've been told by someone at LSU, someone who writes checks, someone who actually is contributing to the financial machine there, and they said you're spot on with this article. And I'm sure a lot of it's backed up with, the university has to have a lot of this stuff in writing and documented anyway, but still, you're the one who digging through all of that to figure it out. For the fan base, can you tell everyone what this means for this season and potentially beyond, where LSU lost $800K last year and only had a profit of $28K this year?
Yeah, so that profit of just 28,000 is really troubling because this was the last financial report before revenue sharing with athletes kicked in. So that's a $20 million year bill that we have to add on top of all of the existing costs of the athletic department. And that's going to, leave a huge hole in the budget that they're looking through all sorts of creative ways to fill. And that's going to range from, institutional support, private backing, advertisements on jerseys. They've got this concert series, and it'll come from state funding as well.
Man, I mean that's the thing is it's LSU fans see the $40+ million portal haul from Lane Kiffin and football, and they see, whoa, there's more money there than anyone thought was possible at LSU before. And mostly what I've heard is it's contributions from oil, natural gas, chemical companies, all these companies that really have rarely, given that much to LSU football, went all in with Kiffin since he arrived. But what do you want folks to understand right from the top about your report and kind of what it revealed about LSU finances in the future?
Well, I mean, I think the university as a whole is going to be entering some difficult budget times. I mean, Louisiana is a really poor state. And when we're talking about the athletics budget and the university budget, it's better to think about that as a part of state government, because that's what we're really talking about here. LSU athletics is part of the government.
Yep.
And with Louisiana being such a poor state, and higher education being so uninvested in the last few years, there are a lot of difficult times ahead, and there are only so many places that they can look for this money.
Absolutely. And that was what we're going to talk about as well, because you brought up some of some of the ways that they could possibly do this that's other schools are actually doing right now. But only making $28,000 in 2025, losing $800K in 2024. That is, Piper, just that right there is beyond hard to even believe or accept. Like, is that reality? That's crazy. And I have a few ideas to why. Paying fired coaches a combined like 80 million won't help, plus I'm probably underrating that as well. But how is a behemoth organization like LSU even able to lose that amount of money and not earn that amount of money? How is that even possible?
Well, losing $800,000 last year, I mean, there's a little bit of a cushion, cash reserves, getting some bailout maybe from the athletic foundation, from private donors, but it's not sustainable long term.
Yes. That's the main thing that we're talking about here. Is not like, oh my God, LSU sky's falling. It's more of like, where's LSU going to be 5-6 years from now? Because, I'm just, Piper, I hate to kind of bring it into a big world situation, but I think we really needed to kind of go that route, because when you're talking about, quarterbacks cost $4 to $5 million right now, how much are they going to cost in 4 to 5 years? And these are public institutions that with public money. They're not an NFL team. The transition to free agency may not be felt for others within the game, maybe in some other ways, but like the U.S. taxpayer might actually feel this, because we're talking about tax-free NIL and stuff like that. We're talking about this money becoming almost like an untenable situation. What would you like to see maybe the government or say a independent body, a college football independent body, do to kind of put some caps on this, or what should they do to kind of make this sustainable?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get too far into the advocacy realm as a reporter, but there are some things to keep in mind. Like the revenue sharing is pretty capped right now. We might see that change in the future, but that 20.5 million is pretty stable across Division I institutions. But there are going to be other things that we see happen within the next few years. You mentioned tax-free NIL. Louisiana currently does not have that. That's going to be a big policy debate that I don't see passing in Louisiana.
They can't. They can't.
No, I mean, it's especially in a poor state like Louisiana, it's just not a good look to be giving a tax break to a millionaire college athlete when teachers, when police officers, when lower and middle class people are paying that tax burden and paying for those student athletes to go to college. There, are other ways where that state support is going to come from. Last year, we increased the sports gambling tax and put some of that money towards college athletics. That's going to give LSU $2 million in taxpayer money every year, which, is not the entire $20 million, but it's a start. In this year, there's going to be some more moves to get even more state support for LSU athletics. As you may know, the Tiger Stadium public address announcer, Dixon McMakin, is in the legislature.
Yes.
He has sponsored a bill to put certain athletic events held at Tiger Stadium into something called the Major Events Fund, which is a state fund that gives taxpayer money to institutions that host major events like the Super Bowl or Essence Festival or significant things like that bring in these like tourist dollars.
Yes.
So that might be another way that LSU is getting some state support. But this policy realm is changing very quickly because the need is so severe. But at the same time, there are very severe needs in other parts, for the LSU, the university as a whole, and for other universities who are basically on the brink of collapse here in Louisiana.
Oh my God. I mean, you just said it, because there's times I've gone down to LSU, and usually I'm dealing with the football ops building. Usually I'm going into a few, the Lawton room, a few rooms like that to go to these press conferences, going to the practice field, going to Tiger Stadium, not really exploring campus. But one of the times I was going around with Jack Besh, he's driving me around campus, and another time with another player. Maybe I shouldn't name this other player, but we're going around, and he shows me the library, and I could not believe what I was seeing. The library at LSU, I know people rip on Robert Mann a ton for bringing it up, like, you stupid liberal, shut up. But it's like, he has a point. There's rats in the library at LSU that shouldn't be happening. And you're, like you said, it's worse than that. I mean, the PMAC is going to have to get replaced. They're going to be building a new basketball. Like, how are they going to find the money to do that? There's going to have to be a lot of moving and shuffling and wheeling and dealing and cooperation from the state and local governments, and a lot of corporation help there too. But Piper, my contacts, some of whom have been kind of helping me with these stories since I was barely out of high school. I've seen them kind of rise from unknown positions at LSU into becoming part of the brass at LSU. I'm told that was LSU received $49 million from a lot of oil, chemical, and gas companies to buy this transfer portal class. But they also just got this Woodside Australian company to do the patch for that first ever advertising patch on the LSU jersey. How much will those type of things close this gap and generate some profits for LSU?
I haven't seen the details on the patch deal yet. I mean, I anticipate that's going to be a significant investment, not enough to make up the gap, but it's one of the ways that you'll see more investment. And I imagine you'll see, other similar deals. I mean, LSU has other athletics teams. We're going to see them try to monetize all of their assets.
Yeah, that's the thing is, okay, the deal is Woodside has put in a massive $17.5 billion investment in the Louisiana LNG project down there in Lake Charles. And so the money's coming off from that. But you're right, they're going to be monetizing everything. And you're seeing it already at a lot of different places. There's the flat fee, that LSU hasn't done that yet to their fans. On top of these extra fees and opportunities for donations, will fan fees, like what we've seen at Georgia. I think some of the Texas schools do this as well. You listed a few of them in your article. Are we going to see something like that at LSU? Do you think that'll get passed?
Fans, I think, have been pushed about to their limit. And you saw this, last fall when the Board of Supervisors voted to increase ticket prices and then later said that they recanted it. They haven't taken an official vote to undo that, but I would imagine it would be pretty hypocritical for them to stick to that price increase at this point. But one way in which some SEC schools are bringing in money is by putting a student fee in place. And LSU doesn't have a student fee right now, but
Exactly.
that's a way that other universities have found they can add several $1 million a year by adding a flat fee on top of tuition that students have to pay per semester. And these fees are typically applied regardless of whether you are a student who lives on campus or lives off campus, whether you're an undergrad or a graduate student. So there's some like inequities on how they're applied. I mean, obviously, a lot of students get a lot out of athletics, but many students don't. And students have to pay for their football tickets as well.
Wow.
Um, it could vary how big that fee is, but it's a big pot of untapped revenue. And I would imagine LSU would rather try to implement a fee like that rather than cut a team, which you've seen some universities do.
That was my next question. Piper, you're all over this because seriously, like I couldn't believe how the wealth of information her article has brought, and stuff that I just was like, whoa, I was not aware of that. Do you anticipate LSU cutting any teams, or if they're not going to, it's really not likely that they will, in my opinion. But I still want to hear your opinion and analysis on that. But what also a second question apart from that, but which will be the program you think that will get kind of the short shaft of everyone with the money?
Well, no, I don't think LSU is at risk of cutting a sport at this point in time. I haven't heard anybody say that that's something that they want to do. For universities like LSU, it's going to be a point of pride to maintain their, entire list of sports.
Oh yeah.
There are also some like Title IX considerations where you need to have a similar amount of scholarships for men and women students. So no, right now, I don't think that that is a risk. Although, if the budget situation continues to decline, LSU might be pushed to the point where they have to consider it. Um, as far as which team is going to get the short end of the stick, you know, there is already a lack of investment, I think, in some of the sports like swimming and diving, track. Some of the women's teams struggle to get the same resources as the men's team. Um, I think that situation is going to continue. And when the athletic department is looking to trim their budget, personnel might be a something that they're going to look at.
See that's you're right on the money. Softball. So I mean, people rip on Beth Tarina, but it's like this woman is given nothing, and I'm sorry, but she's generating a lot of gems out of like complete nothing to work with. And yes, softball isn't, as dominant as it used to be, or there's a lot of narratives, but I mean, Beth Tarina is really given nothing to work with, and she
Right.
absolutely produces.
Some amazing athletes have come out of those, the softball team, swimming and diving, track and field,
Yeah,
people who've gone on to do really incredible things, Olympic athletes. And a lot of those teams are winning championships, which
yeah.
the football team hasn't done recently.
No, that's the thing is, I mean, Mondo. I mean, how many different? There's Mondo. There's Shikari. Um, Vernon Norwood, is he also from LSU? So there's at least three that I can think of that come from LSU at least. I mean, that's outrageous, and they barely get any money, any support, and the way they can pull off what they do is just simply unbelievable. It really actually makes the university look good that they actually aren't funded in some of those areas and actually produce. I mean, gymnastics is well funded, so I've heard, in comparison to some of these other kind of fringe sports, not looked at sports. But no university wants to do this either, Piper, where there was a time, and I'm not sure if this was in your article or if I read this somewhere else, but it was something I had heard about, but I never had confirmation about. But from 2012 to 2019, LSU athletics were helping the university with the funding. Was that from your article?
Yes, that was in one of my articles.
Oh, wow. So that was something I did not know about, and you blew my mind with that. I had heard about it, thought it was kind of a rumor, thought it was kind of fake. that was something that Scott Woodward ended up getting rid of, right?
Right.
Wow. Do you think the reverse could happen soon, where the university is subsidizing the athletic department?
In terms of direct institutional support, I think that is really unlikely at this point in time. Although, there may be a time where athletics requests it in the future. But I think that would be a really difficult sell. Going back to when that was implemented, that was because of the state budget situation was so dire. Now, something that's kind of a random fact that a lot of sports fans aren't thinking about, but in terms of the state budget, there are two large areas of the budget that don't have statutory or constitutional protection, which means they're the first to get cut during difficult budget times, and that's healthcare and higher education. So when the state budget is bad, LSU gets cut as a result. And that was why the athletic department started sharing money with the institution. Now, the budget situation that we're in right now is not a crisis, but it's not good either.
Yeah.
And so LSU is struggling to do all of the things that it needs to do as well. And so it's not really a good time for either party to be looking for a handout.
Absolutely. And once again, see, I just pointed out just with that question that Piper's article is a wealth of information. You got to take, I mean, if you care about LSU whatsoever, you care about the future of LSU, you have to check out that link. I know I got to say this right here. Piper, I'm sorry for the low audience right now. And the reason why is because I stupidly scheduled this for right when LSU baseball starts. Like everyone in the chats are like, dude, the baseball game starts. We'll watch it later. But bro, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God, like my bad there. I'm so sorry. But Piper, it's hard to fathom LSU ever like falling apart financially. There's so much money, more than ever, I think, being boosted into the program, at least football wise, from these corporations, from these more private interests. But could we see, like, how massive do you think the fees are going to rise, or the tuition over the next few years to make up for these losses?
It's hard to say. I mean, some universities have tried to implement $200 per student per semester fees for athletics. I don't anticipate something like that being feasible at all. There's just not the political will to do something like that. There would be immense backlash from students and also from the legislature, they are often grilling LSU officials in hearings because their students are paying the same ridiculous fees as the rest of us. Something smaller might be able to get through, maybe $10 to $50, something like that might be possible. But even then, LSU is raising its tuition for certain degree programs to help. This all comes back to Louisiana's poor budget situation. Expensive degree programs like engineering, for example, they're able to raise their student fees right now, raise their tuition, that is. And so these students, who make up a pretty big portion of LSU students, are already paying more to go to LSU. And that is an amount that is above TOPS, which is the state, financial support for students. So any amount of fee, I think, is going to be met with controversy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just getting to the point where it's like you're literally going to price kids out from actually being able to go there. Because then, if they want to go to see LSU games and be a part of that experience, well, then they can just go to Louisiana Tech and then just go to LSU games on the side. Like, because you're really asking there. I mean, it's crazy how much money it's for tuition. It's absolutely outrageous. It prices people out of more schooling, expanded schooling, better jobs, better careers, and it's ruining on it's having an effect on our economy in that way, in my opinion. I think it's just so short-sighted and insane. But Piper, with NIL, all these other factors, it's starting to feel like the system is, and we've said this word a few times here, it's untenable, unsustainable. You think maybe 4 years from now, how much is a roster going to cost if it's $49 million now? And what will corporations do in the name of making more money to fund all of this? and the tax-free NIL too. We got the priorities wrong at Phil's. I love LSU as much as anyone else, but I'm not down with all of this stuff and where where it's going. Who do you think should be like? I know there's a lot of speculative questions here, and you're an investigative reporter. You don't like to speculate, so I'm asking you a lot of weird questions. So I apologize, but who would you like to see making the final decisions on like capping this or just a way to structure it NIL wise and all this stuff? Who would you like to see that be a government thing or like a private college football body? What do you think would be more effective?
Well, I think, the NCAA has proved that it's incapable of making those kinds of decisions, and it has forced the judiciary and the government to make private decisions that I think that is just a little silly, that we've gotten to that point. And they're asking Congress to pass all these laws. And I'm just like, you're able to do that. You're a private organization. We don't necessarily need any of these political figures to get involved. And I think forcing the government to make these types of decisions isn't necessarily going to be the best thing politically or also for college sports. Once something is a law, particularly a federal law, it's very difficult to change that. Congress does not do a lot in terms of passing legislation, especially this Congress, last few Congresses. They've passed very few bills if you compare it to historical Congresses. So if they do pass some of this legislation, that's it. That's what college sports is for probably forever. And I don't necessarily think that's something that like athletic departments really have thought through. College sports changes. It needs to change to keep up with our society, changing values, and putting it in stone, I think, is not the right decision.
No.
I say that as a college sports fan and not a reporter.
I know, like, that's the thing is, that's why I'm asking you some of these questions, because I know you are. Like, I know, like, I've seen a bit of the background. You're very invested in being LSU Tiger. It's not just the reporting and the investigative, which is your bread and butter and your career, and you do so well at that. But also, you want this to be a success. You're not, I'm gonna criticize LSU at every point. If you criticize LSU, it's to make the system better, expose something that needs to be better, or a wrong that must be righted. And everyone also, her article is on LouisianaIlluminator.com. LAIlluminator.com. This is it right here on my really crappy phone. This is an incredible article, Piper. What went into, kind of describe the process for you gathering all this information, or just how you went about writing this and putting this together?
Yeah, so I've written several articles about athletics budgets, the LSU budget, the higher education budget, the state budget. So I'm pretty familiar with how all of those machinations work. So when I saw the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's report on the most recent budget cycle for LSU athletics, that really stood out to me, that there was only a $28,000 surplus, which is different than what you would understand the surplus to be if you only looked at LSU's NCAA financial report. If you look through that document, which is very lengthy, LSU will say, oh, we had a $3 million profit. But if you go further down in the document, you find that there are some expenses that are paid from the athletic department back to the institution that aren't listed as expenses within the NCAA financial reporting framework. Now, the legislative auditor isn't concerned about the NCAA rules. They're worried about the state budget. So this financial report from the legislative auditor is the more accurate version of LSU's athletic financials. And it all really started there.
Wow. Most people would have just, I gotta say, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but most men who love LSU, report this thing every day, I know it because I've seen this happen, would be like, $3 million profit. That's it. You dug.
Well, that's my background, is covering, state budgets and covering state government. And that's, I think, the novel thing that I bring to the LSU athletics beat.
I'm just like taking notes because as someone who wants to get better at this, it's like when I'm going to see a number like that, I'm going to be like, well, how does that number break up? And what does that break up into? And what is, it's like, I could literally talk to you for hours trying to pick up tips here, but because you're incredible what you do, Piper. This article is absolutely just, it freaks me out a little, but I think addressing this type of stuff will actually hopefully get this to work. It scares me, the idea of Trump wanting to do some sweeping executive order. This should not be done by one person who has nothing to do with college football. Whether you are liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. I don't care if it was Joe Biden, Obama, George Bush. I don't want a president of the United States deciding college football. It's ridiculous. We have Sankey, we have Nick Saban, we have these figures. You even let Josh Pate do it. Like, let Jake Crane do it. Someone who actually has a knowledge in college football. Who, as far as LSU, Verge Osbury, our new AD, how do you think he's going to operate with some of these heavy decisions as far as the finances? Do you have faith in him?
Verge is an incredibly smart man, and he really understands the political and budget side of things. You know, I've talked to Verge about, going through the state bond commission. He's often at the Capitol talking to lawmakers. He really understands that side of things. And he's very confident. So I would say, he is a good person to have in charge in these times. Not endorsing any of his decisions on anything, but I will say he knows what he's talking about.
That makes me feel better. And I also love the idea that LSU constantly, whenever I've seen huge challenges come to LSU, come to the doorstep, LSU football, LSU athletics, LSU as a university, they always have figured something out to flip the situation around and get it going again. And that's why we're Tigers deep down. We love to see this university succeed. We love to see Louisiana succeed. That's all we want. Piper, great achievement on this article. Everyone go to LouisianaIlluminator.com right here. Check out her amazing work. This is very interesting reading. Everybody who wants to know about the future of LSU finances, which is really what decides kind of what your team can do and what your team can get. This is really where the heart of all of this is. Piper, sorry for my ranting. Sorry for the crazy schedule. I am very interested in this subject. You have made a very good impression on me with this article. I cannot believe the great work that you do. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And if I can, just really quickly, if any of your listeners are interested in the higher ed and the budget side of things, I have a Substack called Louisiana Higher Ed Weekly. It's free to sign up, and you'll learn a lot about budgets in there.
Louisiana Higher Ed Weekly.
It's a Substack.
Is it like Substack.com/
I think it's LouisianaHigherEdWeekly.substack.com.
Let's see.
But it's linked to the top of my Twitter page. It gets a little bit in the weeds. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, that's where to find all this stuff.
Well, I absolutely am as well. This is what really goes. I mean, no one cared about finances before, but now with NIL, like, if you really care about the sport and where it's going, you got to know about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Piper, seriously, thank you so much for the amazing work. Keep going. We cannot wait to see you, writing for the New York Times, writing for one of these huge papers someday, or just making a ton on your Substack with your credibility.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking with you.
Always, and hopefully we'll talk again about one of these crazy new investigative reports you'll put out.
Maybe something soon.
That sounds very promising.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Piper. Take it easy. Everybody, that was Piper Hutchinson, her Louisiana Higher Ed weekly.substack.com is where you can find her Substack. She does stuff on Tigerrag Media. She does stuff on Louisiana Illuminator. I'm blown away by her work because there isn't so much an attention to detail anymore with some of these things. And I feel like her work kind of brought that to the fore. At least for me, it was kind of just like a mind-blowing, like, okay, this is what you need to know, why you need to know it. This is why this matters to LSU, why this matters to the university, why this is a challenge faced by the university, why this is going to affect certain things. I got a little long-winded there with the questions. I'm sorry. I tried to mix some opinions of mine into questions, so kind of ranted and raved there. So I apologize for that, but doing our best here. Was very enthusiastic kind of about the subject. So we've got to see LSU turn it around, and hopefully in 2026, season tickets have sold out. There's been huge interest into the program, into the university since Kiffin's arrival as well. So there's going to be, I think, a bigger profit in 2026. So we'll see that profit increase. Brian Kelly was not enthusing anybody at all. But we really appreciate Piper from coming on. That was awesome. And I really feel bad because I asked her a ton of speculative questions. I tried to figure out the best way to ask some of those questions, or just like give her the ball and let her run with it, because I'm no expert and there's stuff that she's going to be able to bring up that I won't even be thinking about, because she's done this before and has the knowledge of these budgets, of how this all works. I don't. And so being able to hear her describe that, how she wrote it, I'm learning a lot from this, and it was very interesting to me, and I hope you found it interesting, but also a little concerning too. We needed to really have those monetary and financial discussions out loud about, how is this sustainable? How is this tenable? Not just like, sure, these schools could just get more and more money and ask for more money and ask for more money, but then our wages aren't going to go up to match that. So what's going to happen? Or even if our wages do go up a little, they're never going to go up enough to like overcome this gap. So how is this sustainable? How is it tenable? You're not even going to how is the product going to change? All I know is it's going to be for the worse, because you're going to price a lot of people out. So it's going to be a game for the elites, meaning a game played by the elites too. For the elites, played by the elites. You're going to price out the regular man from actually being able to go to school. I mean, you are right now. You're pricing out the regular man from being able to go to Tiger Stadium to watch his team right now. It's I was yelling for Sage to come on, and I was like, it's okay now. You can come in. I'm just doing my last little riff. I'm just shocked, man. I'm just shocked because I know I think a few maybe think I'm sorry. I'm like falling. I'm tripping over my words today. I'm so sorry. Long crazy night last night in a good way. I'm just I'm stunned by some of the news financially, and I hope we can turn this around. And I think LSU, all the interest, all the buy-in with Kiffin, all this stuff is going in the right direction. Man, you know what? I really do think it's gonna it's going to help LSU in the long term, having this big time hire, having all of the. I mean, so many people are wanting to come see LSU games who had no interest even a few years ago because people just hated Brian Kelly, and I think a lot of people either didn't understand that or overlooked how much Brian Kelly was just fucking hated. Just not a good guy at all. And Kiffin, maybe there's a circus there. Maybe there's some craziness there. There's a lot of interest there too, and there's a track record there. There's winning championships. Maybe as an assistant, but he got a team into the playoff this year, which LSU's only been to the playoff one time in 2019. Kiffin did it one time with Ole Miss already, and Kiffin also took Ole Miss to a Sugar Bowl in an era where LSU were playing the freaking Texas Bowl, every single season. So, a huge upgrade at head coach. Huge upgrade with season ticket interest. So, I'm saying that I think LSU can turn this around very quickly. And I think LSU can make this not really much of a big deal. But the fact that this university only had a $28,000 profit, LSU Athletics only a $28,000 profit last year, and then lost $800K the year before that, is stunning to me. How much money they get in tuitions, how much money they get in tickets. Something was disturbed, and that was just the outrageous amount of coaches we hired and fired under Brian Kelly. How many goddamn payouts do we have to throw at assistants? And we weren't even buying that many players at the point. We were literally spending like $10 million on it, a portal class. At the most, maybe $7 million. And then finally, 2025, we spend 18. But a lot of interesting signs of, a potential future concerns there as well. Present concerns, present danger, clear and present danger. Piper Hutchinson from Tigerrag, investigative reporter. I should have also put Louisiana Illuminator as well in there because that was also where she was from too. But subscribe to her Substack, which we're going to be doing ourselves, because if there are more things that are going on with LSU financially and LSU, the structure of things and the future of things, I want to know about it. So subscribe to her Substack right there, Louisiana Higher Ed Weekly.substack.com. And everybody have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll be talking to you very, very soon. We put out this article just a day ago. Lane Kiffin and LSU, the most hated team in college football. Definitely check out that article. And we might be doing an audio version of that article as well. It's become quite a popular piece. The piece is starting to go viral. So it's been very cool to see that happen. We were just very thrilled to have a real awesome journalist on as a guest. Hopefully we can have some more on. There was people like Shay Dixon or Jacques Doucet or Wilson Alexander, where we've had invitations out for those people, and hopefully they'll respond and come on and join the party. Everybody, thank you so much for your time, and have a good rest of your weekend. Sunday night vibes. Go Tigers, baby.